Welcome to Footy Centre podcast series.
Welcome to the FC Pitchside Podcast, your home of all things football. On today's episode, who is made it to the Champions League next season from the Premier League? We'll be breaking down the standings and all the drama of the final day. We'll also preview the massive Champions League final between Inter Milan and PSG, and also how Antonio Conte has answered the question of if he is the greatest Serie A manager in history after winning the Scudetto with Napoli. We'll also be looking at the Europa League final between Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur, a game that left Ruben Amorim with no other option than to promise a lot of goodies next season. And then, of course, we have the game or the quiz, anyhow you want to call it, between Jonathan Mensah and Philip Sijo-Atrim. Of course, you know who my guys are today. My name is Thierry Nyan. Thank you very much for joining me. Let me now introduce the guys and pick their thoughts, all their highlights for or what has been the last few days and the week in general. Sicho, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Good to see you. Good to see everybody who's doing the watching.
Yeah, you missed last week, but you're back.
Yeah, and listen, there's one thing being on the show and there's one thing listening to the show. I enjoyed listening to you guys from last week. Brilliant stuff.
Oh, nice. Jonathan, you were threatening Sicho that if he comes back this time, it's going to be a lot of mess at the end of the show.
Hi guys, hi listeners, hi everyone that's watching. I'm glad to be back, and obviously Sicho is always scared of me whenever he sees me. So he disappeared last week, but glad he's back.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good one
there's
today.
nowhere for him to run. So yeah, Sicho, so what's the biggest highlight for you been this week, considering a lot of things have happened? Hopefully your biggest highlight was in Bilbao.
It was close. It was close to my biggest highlights. Like, Spurs winning it in the first time in a long while, European trophy. It was close, but my biggest highlights of the week has got to be Napoli. Antonio Conte's story with Napoli, McTominay, Lukaku. I know we'll get into this proper, and that has been my highlight of the week. For Napoli to have beaten Inter Milan to the Scudetto, top job.
Jonathan, what was your biggest highlight?
Sicho took the words out of my mouth. I believe, it was the same for me. Looking at what obviously Conte did in other clubs he coached in, he won wherever he went. So to see him reunite with a player like Lukaku and Scott McTominay joining the team, the way they played together as a team. Obviously,
Right.
They lost a big piece in Osimhen, but they've rallied together and they've won the Scudetto again. So that was my highlight of the week.
Right. All right. So let's start again and see what it's going to be. But of course, today we are going to be looking at the first time we are looking at the hot topic. When I say hot topic, I'm talking about a brief conversation we're going to have before we discuss the weekend results and what other topical issues we have. Now, today we are looking at Kevin De Bruyne. You remember he's leaving Manchester City. He announced that a few weeks ago. We're not talking about that. What we are talking about is with Kevin De Bruyne just about leaving Manchester City and leaving the Premier League altogether. A lot of people have said he is the greatest midfielder of all time in the Premier League. I don't know what my panel have to say about that. I would also obviously share my thoughts on that, but I'll start with Sicho. Sicho, do you agree to that? And also, I just want us to have some perspective to it. If we look at Kevin De Bruyne's season, or no, not the season, but his career at Manchester City, he's played 287 games. He's assisted 119 goals and contributed 72 goals directly himself, as well as winning 6 Premier League titles. If you want to just go further than the Premier League, he's won 2 FA Cup titles, he's won 4 Carabao Cup trophies, he's won 2 Community Shields, he's won the Champions League, the FIFA Club World Cup. He's very well decorated. But is it okay to suddenly place him above the likes of Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard and Paul Scholes?
No. I love Kevin. when I see him play in its peak years, he was brilliant, exciting towards, scores brilliant goals, plays some of the most insane passes. I don't think that he's the greatest Premier League midfielder we've ever seen, even though I think he is one of the greatest in the history of the Premier League. But I still think that the greatest midfielder in the Premier League has got to do with the three you mentioned. It's going to be one of them: Paul Scholes, Steven Gerrard, or Frank Lampard. And when we've picked those three players, depending on which era you watched them in, and depending on how long you've seen them play, you can make your choice. So I know a lot of people are going to go for Paul Scholes, Sam Stevens, some Frank, and whoever you pick. I think you have a very good argument to back them. I think that that conversation will still be one that lingers on subjectively between that top three that we've mentioned. I don't think that Steven Gerrard, I don't think that Kevin De Bruyne breaks into that top three bracket yet, but I still think he's one of the greatest ever to have played in the
Right.
Premier League in terms of midfielders.
And Jonathan, what's your take on that?
I would argue a little bit about what Sicho said about the top three. I believe you can add him now to be top four, because the argument is always going to be objective. It's going to come down to preference, and it's going to come down to how many Premier Leagues did you win, Champions League, this and that, and all that. So people will have their preferences, and if you ask a fan of Manchester City, he's going to tell you De Bruyne is the best ever. You ask a Manchester United fan, he's going to tell you something else. So but to me, I'm going to choose him because I've watched him closely play. I watched, the Gerrard, the Lampards, and all that, and the way Kevin De Bruyne played his football. He was one of the best at that position, I would say, and the amount of games recently, teams have been playing. Uh, there's been a lot of teams that have evolved, formation, player profiles and all that. So me personally, I'll go for Kevin De Bruyne, but of course the argument is there to be made. So
Well, I think I agree with you. If you ask anyone on the street, depending on where the person's hat is, the person's going to
mhm,
tell you, it's either De Bruyne or it's going to be Lampard or Gerrard or Paul Scholes. But or if you look at it objectively, you're also looking at the number of trophies they won, the kind of contributions they made to those title-winning seasons. If that is the main focus or the main criteria, then Steven Gerrard will not be part of the conversation. But we
mhm,
all know that's going to be blasphemy because then you are looking at the number of titles won, and Frank Lampard and De Bruyne and Scholes won more than Gerrard. But it's not
yeah,
just that;
yeah,
it's also what the individual did on the pitch. Now, De Bruyne at some point was played as a false nine. He was further up the pitch. His goals, definitely helped Manchester City. Pure midfield work. It's easy to overlook Frank Lampard and just focus on his goals, but he was a brilliant midfielder as well. Paul
mhm,
Scholes, everybody knows what he did at Manchester United and everything. I personally feel De Bruyne is not the greatest midfielder of all time. I think
mhm.
midfield is one of the most. I think it's the diciest conversation to ever
Position.
have. I think it's a very tricky conversation because midfield has so many facets. It's not like saying who is the greatest goalkeeper of all time or who is the greatest striker of all time, and you
Mhm,
can just look at pure numbers and all that. But for midfield, a lot of variables come into it, and there are different types of
Yeah.
midfielders. It's like comparing Zidane to Xavi. To me, I think it's very unfair considering one is a holding guy and the other one was playing very close to the strikers and the forwards. But yeah, I mean, I think De Bruyne is not the greatest. It's my objective. I think he's not a great. I think he's great. I think he definitely would be in top three for me, but not the greatest.
one of them
Yeah,
for
he's one of
sure.
the he's sure one of
Yeah.
the greatest midfielders we've seen.
Hmm.
His passing range, the variations in his game, the shooting range he has, the game changing ability, the big game factor he has everything going for him. But so does
Hmm.
Lampard. So does Gerrard. So I think there's a lot that needs to go into that conversation. I don't think we have
Yeah.
time for that now. But yeah, the next thing about De Bruyne though is that he's moving to Napoli, guys. Is that a good move?
It's a brilliant move if you ask me for Napoli and for the Serie A as well. When we've seen a lot of players who have turned 30 or on the wrong side of 30, and have thrived in that league. That league has a way of still getting a lot out of the aged players. So when you look at the Inter Milan team in the final right now, they've got a lot of players over 30, some 35, some 34. Mkhitaryan is great.
My
Kaloglu is not
question to
young.
you about that Sicho is it that
Yeah.
the Serie A is not strong enough? Why is it that old men are able to survive there?
Yeah, I think it's conditioning. It's conditioning. Italians take special care of conditioning more than any league. And when you ask the players who have played there, I mean, Jonah can pick a phone call and call Montari and put him on the call now. Call AC who played at AC and put him on the call. There is, and when you look at even Real Madrid now, their physical trainer is from Italy, right? There's something they do about player conditioning that keeps them going for a very long time. So when players have struggled in other leagues and have come to the Serie A, it's not about the fact that it's slow. It's not about the fact that it's not physical. It's everything that other leagues are. But Italian clubs pay a special attention to dieting and conditioning. So the example would be, even for a younger Lukaku, when he was at Man United, he looked bulky. He didn't look fit. He didn't look like he was sharp. When he went to Inter Milan and Antonio Conte, we saw a different Romelu Lukaku. And that wasn't a Lukaku of 30 years. That was a Lukaku of 27, 28 years. He looked trimmed. He looked faster.
Right.
He looked different, right? So there's something about Italian teams and conditioning about players that keeps them going. So yeah, if you ask me if Napoli is good, it's good for the league. It's good for Napoli. And Kevin De Bruyne, I think when he goes there, he can be fit and he can play a lot of games. But the rumor now is, or the news now is, Antonio Conte is going to leave the club. They are parting ways. So I'm wondering if going to Napoli had anything to do with Antonio Conte being there, and if that would change anything about Kevin De Bruyne's plan. Otherwise,
Well,
we'll see the way
from
forward.
anything that I read, from everything that I read, it had more to do with De Laurentiis, the owner of Napoli, who wanted De Bruyne,
Brilliant.
and really had nothing to do with Antonio Conte. But it would have been fascinating to see how he survived an Antonio Conte team, though, because we know how transitional Conte's teams are, and the passing range De Bruyne has obviously was definitely going to help. Jonathan, what do you think about this move, though?
I believe we can have our opinions as of why he's going there, why the Serie A and all that. But there might be a reason behind it. Like Sicho mentioned, the owner wanted him there. That's why he's moving there. So, and he probably agreed to that as well. So, but the Italian league is very, very different as compared to the Premier League and other leagues in the world. It's very tactical. They take care of their experienced players, I would say. I wouldn't say old because um, for example, someone like Zlatan, he came to the MLS, he was like 38, 39. He went back to Syria A and won the league.
Yeah.
So they know how to utilize their experienced players. If you're going to train, let's say 3 times a week to give your best in the weekend, they're going to make sure that they prepare you for that. And yeah, they make sure that they communicate with the experienced players in a way that whatever they are like laying in front of you to do, you would have a reason to even do it even more. Someone like
Yeah.
Lukaku, like Sicho mentioned earlier, he wasn't looking, he wasn't in the best shape. But playing under Conte, he's going to let you know the reason why we're doing this, and you bet you're going to do that for him. So to see Conte transform the experienced players into some of the best players, it says everything about the league itself. So I'm glad that Kevin is choosing to go there, obviously from the interest from the club owner.
All right. But at this point, I think we need to move on from there, and let's visit Bilbao. Let's go to Bilbao, because a special occasion happened on Thursday. Was it on Wednesday or Thursday? One of those days.
Wednesday.
I don't really remember the day. The day is not as important to me as what happened on the day. But it was Manchester United against Tottenham Hotspur. And it was a battle of two unserious clubs this season. It was a battle of two clubs.
El Shashi.
It was a battle of two clubs that had proven and
Oh
shown
my God.
consistently just how disastrous they are. Well, Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur, to be fair to them, they had a very good Europa League run. But maybe, I mean, on another day, we'll have a conversation about the Premier League and the second and third tier European competitions because for some reason, I think the English clubs need to be banned. When West Ham United won the Conference League, they were 12 or so. Chelsea have been on and off this season, and look at how they are just gliding past every team in the Conference League. Manchester United did same, Tottenham Hotspur did same, but the talking point now, the next 10 minutes, is between Man United and Spurs. What happened in Bilbao? Tottenham Hotspur have won the Europa League, guys. Ange Postecoglou is a manager that has been spoken about so much this season for the terrible work seemingly that he's done at Spurs. But for some reason, he says he always wins in the second season. Let's take a listen to him saying that.
I'm going to answer the question, or you're going to keep asking it? No, absolutely. And I think I'll correct myself. I don't usually win things. I always win things in my second year. Nothing's changed.
I told them and they laughed. All of them, heroes. And they did it all for you. All the best television series. Season 3 is better than Season 2.
So that's Ange Postecoglou saying that every season, every second season, at every club he's been, he wins and he's delivered. I mean, Sicho, there's not going to be a better, mic drop statement than that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mate. He wins in the second season, mate. Every second season he wins, mate. Look,
he wins. He changed it from I usually win to I always win.
I always win, bro. Like this is walking the talk, because it made absolutely no sense that he would back himself in the way he did back himself, and in the end went on to win, because Spurs had an incredibly atrocious season of football. FA Cup, Carabao Cup, the league.
Come to think of it, they even lost their final game of the season, but we'll get there.
Yeah, and if you look at their social media posts, they were like, the Europa League champions lose their final game of the season. Like, they are thoughts in the Europa League championship. That was crazy.
I'm pretty sure this whole summer, if they buy any player, it's going to be Europa League champions signs.
These players agreed to play for Europa League champions. But look, I love Ange Postecoglou and the way the season has unfolded for Spurs. Look, he had a lot of injuries to a lot of his important players. At some point, it wasn't an excuse. But to be honest, you can't lose your entire back line, including your goalkeepers, so your back five. He lost Vicario, he lost Van der Ven, he lost Romero, he lost Destiny Odogi. The only player who played a lot of games, even though he also had an injury, was Pedro Porro, right? Then he lost Kulusevski at some point.
Yeah.
Son Heung-min hasn't been the same player.
Kulusevski wasn't even in the final. He's dealt with a lot of injuries this season, to be honest.
So the Spurs team is also a big team full of quality. So when his first 13 players or so, he has about 7 of them missing. Truly, he can't play his brand of football. But there's one thing I love about Ange, and that is why Amorim, or Amorito, as I call him, lost the Europa League. Look, Ange respected the moment. He knew he couldn't play his brand of football with a team available to him. So what did he do? He played a way that could afford him to win. And the way he played in the quarterfinal away from home, in the semi-final away from home, is the same way he played in the final. He kept it tight, stayed back, wasn't expansive, scored one goal and defended well. That is not his style, but that was a style to help Spurs to win and to help him maintain his record of winning in every one of his second seasons, mate. Mate, you've done it.
Yeah, he's done it. But Jonathan, I mean, that's Tottenham Hotspur finishing the season 17th, but still winning the Europa League. Do you think that the decision makers at Tottenham Hotspur should focus on the fact that he finished 17th, or should they focus on the trophy that he's brought them for the first time in 17 years? The number 17 seems to be very magical for Spurs this season, though.
I believe the team ownership, obviously, they are not going to be happy with the position the team finished.
Yeah,
but they are obviously going to focus now on the trophy that the team won, because they haven't won the trophy in a long time, like you mentioned, 17 years. So, and obviously the coach also promised that he usually wins in his second year, and he did it. So now they're gonna obviously back him again. They might sign one or two players to see if that is gonna help him change the way the next season is going to be. But it's going to be difficult though, because you cannot just ride on your high horse thinking you won the Europa League. So yeah, you're going to be announcing your new signings, whatever that may be. You lost 4-1 to Brighton today,
Yeah.
which you didn't send off your fans home with something to cheer about. But obviously they've won the Europa League, so that's what they're going to be talking about till the next season. So let's see what they're going to do. It was a disappointing season for them for sure.
Ange Postecoglou, during the parade of the Europa League, he said, "In as it is in every TV series, season 3 is always better, always the best season."
And
And maybe he's promising that there's going to be a lot happening in the subsequent season. But that's if he stays, because later on in the press conference he was asked, and he said, "Well, you also know that sometimes the TV series kill the main characters." So maybe he's suspecting that he's going to get the sack. But if I were him, maybe I'll just walk away, just to save face. You won it. You spoke big. You delivered. Just walk, because you're expecting a sack anyway. And I think there's always a rabbit hole with this, because you are looking at Eric Ten Hag last season or 2 seasons ago, when he won the FA Cup with Manchester United, and it was just when Man United wanted to sack him. Then he won the trophy. Then Radcliffe says, if he won it, then why doesn't he stay? But that is where the problem is. It means he starts the season with a manager that you're not so sure about. You might invest for this manager, and then he leaves, and then another manager comes and says, well, everything you invested, I'm going to trash it and restart. And Manchester United are a team we need to discuss, because Hicho, I want you to discuss Man United. The financial situation there is terrible, and considering they have been touted as the richest club in the world, now having to lay off a lot of their staff, have to make a lot of changes at the club just to be able to financially stay solvent. And even more drastically, they need to sell some of their key players, the homegrown players, to be able to stay afloat. It's a lot of issues there at Man United. How is it getting solved next season?
I mean, all of us. It remains to be seen how the sporting owners in Ineos are going to solve this matter, and that is why Man United not qualifying for the Champions League is a big financial hole in the club's structure, because qualifying to the Champions League takes the club's revenue over the summer into north of 100 million. Because all of a sudden, some of the deals you've already
Yeah.
signed, because of the Champions League exposure, you get a percentage increase. So, for example, if the shirt sponsors are going to pay some amount of money because they're going to the Champions League now in a bigger competition, they're going to
Now,
be
now the shirt
negotiating
deal
for
for
an
Man
extra.
United automatically reduces, because
It
Adidas
reduces.
there's a clause in their deal with Adidas. It just drastically
Yeah.
comes down.
Yeah, and so United are going to lose, apart from the money they were going to get from UEFA, they're going to also lose money on commercials. So that's a big financial hole
Yeah.
in the club. And the problem has always been, as everybody knows by now, the poor run and investment of or in the club has now come home to roost. And now they have to find a way of dealing with it. They won't have Champions League football money. And then, of course, finishing as low as they finish in the Premier League also means they won't have a lot of money from the Premier League. Let's not forget, the higher you finish in the Premier League, the more money you make. That is why when people ask,
Mhm.
why is Everton trying to get these 3 points? What are they going to do? They are trying to see if they can get to the next position, because the difference between one position and the other could be a 20 million euros or a 20 million pound or a 10 million pound. And it's huge for these clubs. So now
Yeah.
that Man United finished as low as they did,
Yeah.
they're not making a lot of money from the Premier League as well. So now they have to find a way of injecting money by selling some of the players that they needed to maybe keep and build the team around. And when you look at what is going to happen in this summer, United have got about 7 players who are going to leave the club, some for free. Evans is leaving, Lindelof is leaving, Ericsson is going to go, Marcus Rashford is not going to be on the club, Anthony is going to be sold. We hear Garnacho is going to leave, Onana is going to leave. On top of my mind now, I've mentioned 7 players, which means United need to replace these 7 players before we talk about other players that they would have to bring in to bulk up the squad, because as it stands, they have a very thin and a very lean football squad. So it's incredibly difficult to see how United are going to build a team competitive enough to take them through next season and maybe get them closer to competing for things.
Interesting. But Jonathan, I'll move on from Man United. When I come to you, my question is really simple. Between Arsenal and Tottenham Hotspur, who's had a better season? Now, bear in mind, Arsenal and Tottenham Hotspur have both qualified for the UEFA Champions League.
Oh, goodness gracious
But
me.
Spurs have won a trophy, and Arsenal finished second in the Premier League. Which to you is greater?
This one is a tough one. So,
wait, Thierry, hold on, Jonathan, guys, hold on. Jonathan, as a footballer,
Go ahead.
footballer, what kind of season would you have
Yeah.
had to have? Would you have loved to have finishing in second place in the league without any trophy, suffering the league and doing what Spurs did with winning the trophy, having a medal to take home at the end of the season? As a footballer, which one would you have had to have?
Yeah, it's a good question. You're a
You are the
footballer.
footballer. You
Where
play.
would you
You
like
are
to
the-
finish?
you are the
Second or
dressing
with the
room.
trophy?
I know. I would say it changes as the season goes on. So start of the season, obviously, you want to be at the top, you want to win the league and all that. But if it happens to be that okay, you were in the Champions League, you got kicked down, you got out of the Champions League, you got to the Europa League. Now you can see as you progress, as you win games, you're getting closer and closer to being able to win the Europa League. And if you win it, you're in the Champions League, even though you're not doing well in the season. I would take that. I would take the Tottenham Hotspur's situation. You win the
Exactly.
Europa League.
I've really
You
never
put
understood why people think finishing second ranks. I mean,
you
nobody's
put
going to remember 10 years from now
from now that
who
you
finished
finished
second.
second.
Nobody
Yeah.
cares.
So
What they care about after
especially
you're
for
done is how many medals you have.
especially for a club like Spurs, they haven't won a trophy in a long
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah.
they would pound their chest and say, okay,
I
we'll
love that
take this
perspective. I
over
love that perspective from
finishing
Jonah.
second.
Yeah, I think it's club specific. For a club like Spurs, even if they didn't make Champions League, they didn't make Champions League obviously by the league, but they are going to play in the Champions League anyway. But they are going to play in the Champions League with a
Right.
medal, something they've not done in 17 years. If Man City,
Mhm.
if a club
Yeah.
like Manchester City or a club like Barcelona are going to be finishing outside their top four, and they have to go through to the Champions League by winning, if you like, maybe the Europa League, they would see it
Europa
differently, right?
Yeah.
But for Spurs, this season has
Right.
incredibly been
Yeah.
hugely successful because one, they're in the Champions League. They were never going to win the Premier League. Let's face it, Spurs were never going to win the Premier League. It's either they were going to
Yep.
play top 4 or top 5 and go to the Champions League, or they were not going to go. Now they didn't play top 5 or top 4, but they're going to Champions League with a medal around their neck. So I think if I'm a Spurs
Champions
fan or
League.
player,
Yep.
I absolutely love the season and the way it went.
All right. Now let's move on from there, but still on Tottenham Hotspur. As the Europa League finished and the medals were being awarded, 3 players didn't get medals: Son Heung-min, Christian Romero, and Rodrigo Bentancur. And of course, it's because I don't think this is something that was supposed to be stretched anyway, because in the end they still got the medals. But just to give you a bit of an explanation, UEFA have a set number of medals that they bring to the stage at the end of of every final, and that is 30 medals, and that is taking into consideration the technical team, the staff, and the players, because a lot of people contribute to it. But it doesn't mean it's just 30 medals that are given to the club. The winning club gets 50 medals, but only 30 gets to the stage, and that's because it might take about 30 seconds to dish out a medal to each player. And you were looking at a very large squad, a very big club with technical team and everything. It might take 1 hour to just dish out medals. And so they say, well, 30. But what they were not expecting is for Tottenham Hotspur to bring all their players on the stage, because usually the injured players are not supposed to be counted. They get theirs later. But unfortunately, they all got theirs. And Alexander Ceferin, the UEFA president, was stunned when he saw that he didn't have any more medals, and Heung-min Son was standing there, the captain, waiting for his medal to go lift the trophy, and there was nothing. He was looking to everybody beside him like, what's just happened? But in the end, they were able to solve it and get the medals. It was a really, really interesting thing. But also, Sicho has already mentioned Manchester United coach, even in today's game, sat out Andre Onana and Alejandro Garnacho, and it could just mean the end of their time at Manchester United, especially for Garnacho, and also it's mainly because of what he said at the end of that particular game, looking to rather part ways with the club. Now we move on from there and we go straight to. But also, I want you to take a listen to Mikel Arteta. He's the Arsenal manager, and he was talking about the conversation we just had. If Arsenal or Spurs have had the better season, this is what he had to say.
Who's had a better season? You finishing second or
I
Spurs?
don't like to compare with other teams. Congratulate them. I think they are champions, and when you get to there, you have to do a lot of things right. I think they're going through a season with, again, a lot of obstacles and difficulties, and they have at the end to manage a beautiful moment. So you have to congratulate. This is a sport, and I'm sure they've done everything in their hands to achieve it, and they are really happy.
And the question that I have been asked to ask is who's had a better season?
Sorry?
The question that I've been asked to ask is who's had a better season? You finishing second or
I
Spurs?
don't like to compare with other teams. I need to analyze my team. That's my job.
All right, Mikel Arteta has had his take, but let's also look at what every other manager has done this season, and that is going to include Nuno Espirito, Santo. We are going to be looking at Enzo Maresca, Eddie Howe, and then we'll be looking at Unai Emery. Let's start with Unai Emery, though, because he's an angry man, and I want us to start there because Aston Villa played at Manchester United at Old Trafford, the final game of the season, with everything riding on this game for Aston Villa. Everything riding on this game for Aston Villa. Now, UEFA Champions League place was up for grabs, and we all know the financial benefits that this would give every Premier League club. And so Aston Villa have been desperate to get there. Now, they score a goal through Morgan Rogers, and it was because of Rogers getting the ball off the hands of the goalkeeper and scoring the goal. If you look at the replay, it looked like the goalkeeper didn't really have a good hold of the ball, and so he just basically nicked it off him. Referee had already blown his whistle, and VAR were focusing on the fact that the referee had already blown his whistle before the goal was scored, and so it had to be called off, but it looked like a legitimate goal to me, Sijo.
I think that was a clean goal, in my opinion. The referee had made a terrible decision. In my opinion, if you've got VAR, which checks every single goal that is scored in the game, why the rush? Mm-hmm. Why the rush? Why do you have to rush?
Yeah.
Because if I'm a referee and that incident has happened, I allow the game to go on, and then I say, okay, I don't think it's a goal, I think it's a foul, but I know VAR will check. But the moment I blow the whistle, I didn't even give VAR the opportunity to check because the game has stopped, right? Mm-hmm. And so I thought it was a very terrible decision. In my opinion, goalkeeper had no control over the ball. The ball was still very much hanging between his hands, and Morgan Rogers had it within his right to go and take the ball, and that should have been a goal to Aston Villa. That is a huge blunder in a huge game as that.
Jonah, I don't know if you've seen that incident, and what did you make of it? Because I thought it was a huge mistake, and this also brings, Unai Emery and Aston Villa are now reporting, filing a complaint to the Premier League. I don't think anything changes. Once the game is done, it's done. Newcastle are also going to, argue this in court because they are on the benefiting end because they lost their game against Everton. We'll get there. But how did you find that particular decision on the goal?
I think with VAR, they were supposed to obviously stop the game, check it. If there was an infringement, then you bring it back.
But did you think it was an infringement? Did you think it was?
No, it was a goal to me. But then the referee made that decision, and you just move on with that.
All right. So what it means is that Liverpool finished, top of the table with 84 points. Arsenal second with 74 points. Manchester City are third with 71 points, and that's after their disastrous season. But of course, they've picked up a lot of points in the last couple of months, and it ended with a 2-0 victory over Fulham at Craven Cottage in the final day. Chelsea. Let's talk about Chelsea because they beat Nottingham Forest, and I got a lot of commentary before that game that Chelsea best results at the City grounds was going to be a draw against Nottingham Forest because of the kind of environment and the atmosphere that Nottingham Forest were going to create and all that. But Chelsea usurped them. Now into the Champions League, fourth position. Nottingham Forest unable to do that, Sijo.
Yeah, I think it's a great result by Maresca. Listen, I was very skeptical with Chelsea going into that game and winning. I thought maybe it could be a draw, largely because Chelsea's last six, Chelsea's last six away games coming into this one, they had won only one, right? So even though they had won a lot of games in the Conference League, won some home games, their away form wasn't great. And we know Nottingham Forest at the City Ground, they can be very devastating on the counter. And so I always
Yeah.
thought that game was tricky for Chelsea. But look, they showed character. They were not brilliant, but it was the resilience in the way they defended. And once Levi Cole scored that goal, I just didn't know how Nottingham Forest were going to come back into the game. So massive credit to Enzo Maresca. Very difficult season for him. It's the first time he's been here, got close to the very top, lost their way a little bit, but he steadily guided them back into the place where the club has said they wanted to be. Club didn't say they wanted to win the Premier League this season. They said they wanted to play in Champions League this season. So for me, that is maybe there's some success chalk. Can he do it in the Conference League to maybe end the season with that little trophy to put the icing on the cake? We'll see next Wednesday.
Yeah, so let's move on then, and let's talk about Aston Villa and their. I mean, well, not necessarily Aston Villa, but
Good
Aston Villa and
evening.
Newcastle United. Sicho, I feel Newcastle obviously would delight in this particular achievement of making another Champions League. Aston Villa dropping out into Europa League spots, but do you think that Aston Villa have a reason to be feeling hard done by, considering
Yeah, they
they've also
do.
had fair number of chances this season to qualify?
Yeah,
Really,
no,
did
yes.
they have to be left onto the final day for incidents like this, fine margins to decide?
I
their
think
fate?
the difference between Newcastle and especially Aston Villa was that Aston Villa at a crucial part of the season were playing some very tough games in the Champions League, and they were also
Yeah,
in the FA Cup. They went very deep into the FA Cup, so it stretched them. Newcastle finished their playing their cup final in February, so they could focus solely on the league. And once Newcastle won that Carabao Cup, they felt like they were in cloud 35. They were beating teams left and right because that is what winning. And Jonah is a player; he will tell you that is what winning does to you. As soon as they beat Liverpool, because Liverpool at the time were the best team in the league, they then beat Liverpool at Wembley to break their trophy drought. And all of a sudden, they had a new energy. They went on a run,
Mhm.
won about 6 games on a run. Around that time, Aston Villa had to juggle between very competitive Champions League games and then also try and win their Premier League games. That is where they lost their mojo in the league a bit. Let's not forget, they were also in the FA Cup semi-final. So having to
yeah,
mix those three competitions took something away from their energy, their bite, and their consistency in the Premier League. And in the end, it's cost them. But what they will focus on, even though I thought they could have picked up more points in the league, would be the fact that even against Man United, when they were 10 men, they could have still got something from Old Trafford. I did not being very poor officiating.
yeah. And what this series of results today also mean is that it's very possible that there could be, more than more than 8 teams playing in Europe this season from the Premier League. And what I mean by that is that we know the top five already qualified for the Champions League. Aston Villa have qualified for Europa League. Nottingham Forest qualified for the Conference League. But remember, that is 7 teams.
Crystal
And
Palace.
There's Tottenham
Tottenham
Hotspur have already
Hotspurs.
qualified for the Champions League
Yeah.
after winning the Europa League. But if Chelsea win the European Conference League,
Conference League.
what is going to mean?
Europa Conference.
What is going to mean is that the 8th team in the standings could also match into the
Being
European
Europe.
spots. I think it's really good for the Premier
You
League.
didn't add the fact that Crystal Palace will be playing in the Europa League next season via
Crystal
their
Palace
FA Cup
will also be
victory.
playing in the Conference League, so that makes it 9 teams. And then
Yeah.
there's a
Europa
possibility.
League or Conference League?
They will play in the Europa League.
Europa
Crystal
League.
Palace, I mean, they won the FA Cup, so they play in the
Yep.
Europa League.
Europa
That's
League.
another
Play in the
thing this
Europa League,
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what it means is that there are 6 teams playing in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Aston Villa and Crystal Palace will play in the Europa League.
Yeah.
Nottingham Forest will play in the Conference League. Then that makes it 9. Now, Brighton could play in the Conference League if Chelsea win the Conference League, and it's because it's just going to
Wow. Right.
have a cascading effect. But that is just what it means in the Premier League. Of course, it's a money league, and that's where all the players want to go. That's where, I mean, if I play it, I'm sure that's where.
Do you know what that means, though, guys? It means that almost half of English
Half
clubs.
of the Premier League will be in Europe next
We'll
season.
be in Europe.
That
That
is
is
Wow.
crazy.
that is and that makes next season even tougher because the midweek
Right.
games, 3 games a week,
Right.
3 games a week, 3 games
I
a
mean,
week.
that's a
Bring it on,
conversation we'll
guys.
have in subsequent
Bring it on.
episodes.
Yeah, bring it
Yeah.
on.
Which of these teams can actually juggle playing
Yeah.
midweek and playing
Yeah.
weekends?
Bring it
Because of
on.
course the top
Bring it on.
clubs, are well capable of doing that. But
You
also,
need
mind you,
depth.
even Liverpool suffered this season, so it tells you
Yep.
that
Yep.
even the top
It's not
clubs
it's not
need to
easy.
really, really manage their
It's not
squad.
easy.
But anyway, let's move on from there. Let's go straight to Inter Milan and Napoli, and of course, we'll dwell on Napoli on this one because on the final day, I was switching between the two games, and what a day it was for Napoli. Anyone who saw the fanfare in Naples would know when the game was going on, there was fireworks outside the stadium. The fans in the stadium themselves had fireworks. After the first goal by Scott McTominay, there was a huge fog that the camera could not even capture the players on the pitch. The commentators had to guess who had the ball and who was playing the pass, who was making a tackle, and it just tells you just how important this one meant, for Napoli. But it's not the first they've won in recent times. They won it 2 seasons ago. They won it again for the second time in 3 seasons. But it is just how the level of emotions that they've gone through the entire season to get to this point is why this was so huge for them. And so at the end, it was Napoli winning that particular Scudetto this season, Scudetto, and Antonio Conte. There's something about him and winning titles. Sijo, I'll start with you.
Yeah, look, Antonio Conte is a winner. You remember that run with Juventus when they had been away for a while and Inter dominated. He started it, won 3 Scudetti, and then he left. Then he came to England, came back to Italy. At that time, Inter Milan were off the scene because Juve had dominated. Then he ended that Juventus drought, and then he won with Inter and dominated the league in that period with Inter Milan. Then he left again for England for Spurs, and now he's back to bring Napoli back to the very top. So he knows the league. He just knows how to play the league. There's one thing about him that I find it difficult to crack though. He simply can't combine cup competitions and league football. So he would rather be out of the cup so he can focus on the league.
Mm.
So when you look at his career, he's basically won, I think, only one cup, right? He's only won just one. I think he did it with Chelsea because he just doesn't love combining the two. So his runs in Champions Leagues are not great, but his run in league is great because of the way he trains his players. Another day we might go into it. But the job he did with Napoli, though, that is why I respect him. When you think Antonio Conte and you think football tactics and formation, there's only one thing that comes to mind: is the three-back
Three-back.
system.
Yeah.
In their first game against
He's
Verona,
done
and
that everywhere he's gone to.
everywhere he's
Every
gone.
team.
In the first game against Verona, I watched that game
Yeah.
because I want to know what Conte was going to do differently with this Napoli side, and it was a three-back system. They lost that game,
Yeah.
and when I looked at the team and the way they were playing, I
That
just
was when
knew
all the noise began. Can he win a trophy?
Yep. And even he complained around that time because that time the window wasn't shut. So he was talking about bringing in more players so he could play the way he wanted to play. But Napoli didn't have that big pocket to bring in the players. But that is where a good manager earns his money. He analyzed the squad and then he changed from that three-back system into a 4-3-3 because if you got a player like McTominay, Lobotka, and Zabu Anguissa in the middle of the park, when he plays that three-back, 5 across the middle with the wing backs, and he plays the two strikers, McTominay and Anguissa are box crashing. So most often they left Lobotka alone in the middle of the park. And when you have Juan Jesus, Rachmani, and De Lorenzo as your back three, they don't have the pace. And so when you look at how Antonio Conte changed his team and changed his style, changed his system to get the best out of his players was impressive. But key, I think Jonas mentioned it across the conversation. He lost Victor Osimhen. But people forget that in the middle of the season, he lost Kvaratskhelia to PSG. Yet, he still brought in Okafor, who was a bench warmer with AC Milan and also went on to win the Scudetto. So incredible story, impressive season. Beating Inter Milan, a team as good as them, to win the Scudetto is no mean achievement. Massive.
All right, now let's move on straight to the UEFA Champions League because what we know is a big Cup final that awaits us in just a matter of days. Paris Saint-Germain will be playing against Inter Milan. Inter Milan last won it in 2010. PSG have never won it, and they want to steal it. And they are riding really high. They finished their local domestic season really, really high, also winning the Coupe de France. But is it going to be a trouble for Luis Enrique and his boys, or is it going to be a single trophy for Inter Milan? We'll wait to see. So let me start with Jonathan Mensah on that one. Jonah, how do you see this game going? PSG, Inter Milan.
I believe in the last episode we did, I went for PSG, and I'm sticking with that prediction. If you haven't won a trophy before and you're in the finals, I believe you're going to do all you can to win it. And the way they've played throughout the season, it's been incredible. So I believe they want to go for the treble. They've accomplished two already, so this one is going to be a crucial one for them. And yeah, hopefully they can do that. I played in France, so I would prefer the French team winning it. Yep.
We'll wait to see how PSG will do against Inter. But I know Sicho is already an Inter man, so I'm not going to ask him how he thinks it's going to go. I know what he thinks about this final already. But how do you see Inter Milan winning this? You think Inter Milan win? How do you see?
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you if you think they'll win, because I know they will win already. But how do you think they'll do it?
Look, it's going to be a difficult game. I think the experience will come to the fore. Their gamesmanship will come to the fore. And I've seen PSG struggle a little bit to deal with teams that approach them with two strikers. So I think that could be the trick. How Marquinhos and Pacho handle those two strikers and the dynamism could be key. And Inter Milan also have got it in them to sit in as deep as possible to take out the spaces that PSG's front men have enjoyed when they've beaten teams that they've played against. So I just think Inter Milan have got what it takes to go past PSG. But on a good day, PSG can be dangerous. But I just think the Inter Milan team are gonna win.
I think it'll be a fascinating game.
What do you mean on a good day?
I'm expecting PSG's great attack and Inter Milan's great defense, coming up against each other, and how Inter Milan also know how to counter-attack. PSG on their good days are very good at counter-attacking, as we saw against Liverpool. I think this is an epic game.
Have you seen what Jonah is?
I really cannot wait for this one to happen. But also in the Conference League, just a day after, I think, is Chelsea against Real Betis. What I know is that it's a year of underdogs and it's a year of the bets. And so Chelsea have changed their logo to an eagle. Real Betis have changed their logo to a parrot. But an eagle is always stronger than a parrot.
Well, yeah, look, I think it's going to be a very fascinating final. Real Betis, for me...
Is this going to be better than the Europa League final, though?
I think so. 100% think so.
Okay.
Because both teams play some of them. Look, Betis are finishing high in La Liga. In truth, the Europa League final should have been the Conference League final, and the Conference League final should have been the Europa League final. True. Chelsea in top 4, Betis in top 6, top 7 in La Liga. So these are two very good teams that are coming to play in that final. But look, it's going to be a very expansive game. I think we're going to see some end-to-end stuff there. And in the end, listen, Chelsea have got a lot of quality to win this game. But Chelsea are not at their best when the game is end-to-end, because they don't know really how to deal with counter-attacking football. And Betis have shown that with Anthony in the team.
You mean Manchester United Anthony? Is it Man United Anthony?
The Betis version. Yep. Not the Man United version, the Betis version. Every kind of goal is possible.
Well, whatever Real Betis presents, I know there's Cole Palmer, I know there's Caicedo, I know there's going to be... Nicola Jackson is back. Remember, he's not banned for the Conference League, so he's back.
Rested
and
sharp.
My God, with James. The best right back in the world. We'll see how that goes. But
side note, the Columbus Crew sold their striker to Betis, Cucho Hernandez.
Really? Yes.
And he's doing so well with them. So
he's from Columbus Crew. I didn't know that.
He was at Watford. He didn't make the cut at Watford. He wasn't successful. So he went to the MLS, and then it's come back to
He's done so well with Columbus Crew. He won the Leagues Cup. He won the MLS Cup. He won the MVP. Right. I played with him, I believe, 2022.
Right. Interesting. So there are 2 cup finals awaiting us this weekend, of course. By the next time we, come back here, converge to discuss anything football, we are going to be looking at these two finals as well. So all the best to the 4 teams in the 2 finals, and hopefully the 2 best teams win. Now, just know that Manchester United, talking about Anthony and how he's doing well at Real Betis, another great former Man United icon. Is he an icon? Well, whoever he was, Erik ten Hag. He is now on the brink of signing for Bayer Leverkusen. Hopefully by the time I'm not sure when you'll be listening to this, by the time of recording, he is close to signing, replacing Xabi Alonso, who is on his way to Real Madrid to replace Carlo Ancelotti, who is also on his way to Brazil. So it's going to be a lot of managerial merry-go-round this summer, as well as it's going to be a transfer merry-go-round. So we wait to see how all of that pans out. But for now, we'll go for a quick break. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for these 2 gentlemen to go head to head and let me know who knows football.
Hold on, guys. Let me show you this. I'll show you, Cicho, that I'm ready to fight you now.
Yeah.
Whatever Jonathan has to show us, we'll see it after the break.
This is the FC Pitchside Podcast, the first in an exciting lineup of podcasts by Footy Centre. Footy Centre is where you'd read your intriguing opinions and daily stories about football. From Europe's biggest leagues, the Champions League, international matches, and for Ghanaian fans, get closer to your favorite national teams. Powered by Ultra Press Media Company.
Welcome
I'm a running back, bro. I'm a running back.
The guys are disturbing me at the back, and it's because Jonathan Mensah has gone for, is it American football or baseball helmet against Cicho's bald head. This is completely unfair. Completely unfair. I'm not going to allow that battle to happen. But the battle, wait, what? A hoodie? A hoodie
Cicho wearing
against a helmet?
Cicho.
But yeah. But Jonathan, quickly though, where did you get that helmet from? Did you buy it? Did you get it from a player?
So I got it from one of our guys that worked. Obviously, our owners, they own the Cleveland Browns.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the guy used to work with the Cleveland Browns. Now he's working with the Columbus Crew, and he brought few. So 2021, they did the draft in Cleveland.
Okay.
And he got this. Let me show you the draft. He got this helmet, and then he gifted me one.
That's a beautiful helmet.
Yeah.
So because it's so beautiful, I think that I need to play a personal game with you, and when I win, I take this one. How about that? So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. What is my middle name? If you get it right, you keep the helmet. If you get it wrong, I take the helmet.
Okay, so you know what we're gonna do? I'll probably buy you a new one, and then we don't do any competition.
That's dope.
So you are listening
I'll
to
get you a new one. Don't worry.
podcast and the owner of a brand new American football
Helmet.
Now,
Yep.
if you don't see me here on this podcast, I'm probably on the field somewhere, punching people, bumping into people, trying to get to the byline. But anyway, let's go on, guys. Quiz. Are you ready for this?
Let's go.
Now,
Bring it on.
Today, the game we have is the FC Pitchside Mystery Man.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Mystery Man, as Jonathan saw last week, is for you to ask me 20 questions in total.
Oh, we're doing same way?
Yeah. So if we get to the 20th question, what it means is that you'd have asked 10 questions each.
I didn't like this one too much.
Your questions should be close-ended with just yes or no possible answers. And those answers should be giving you clues as to who the player I have taken is. Is that all right with you, Cicho?
Yeah.
I don't like it too much, but yeah, whatever.
It's tough, but yeah.
Okay, next week we'll bring the player zigzag, and then I'm going to be asking.
I love the player zigzags. Cicho actually scared of me when it comes to player zigzag.
Oh, really?
No,
He is.
We'll see how that goes. But first player, guys. First player. Okay, so first player taking. Can I start hearing the question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sijo, let me start with you.
So we taking turns, right?
You're taking
He
turns,
asked one, and then
Yeah.
I go. Okay, cool.
Which league did he play in, or which league is he playing in?
No. The question should be a yes or no.
Okay. Does he play in the Premier League?
No.
Is he from Africa?
That's a brilliant question. No, he's not.
Okay.
Mm,
Sicho, your turn. You delaying, my guy. You delaying. Putting
Actually,
pressure on you.
okay.
Putting pressure on you.
Wait.
Putting
Is he-
pressure
is
on
he-
you.
Is he a midfielder?
Yes.
Playing in any of the European League, top 5 leagues?
Yes.
Kevin De Bruyne.
Oh, that's your first guess. No.
Bro, really?
Man, bro, I thought we just spoke about him today, so he was just chipping in. Like,
Well, that was smart. But it just didn't matter.
well, let's play for the show. We just
Well,
Kevin De Bruyne.
well done.
for him today.
Well done. Well done.
Let's go, Jonathan. What's your question?
All right.
Damn, he said it wasn't. Oh man, He said it
That's
wasn't
five.
Premier
So
League.
that's
I should have
five
known.
already. So that's 5 questions already.
Is he from South America?
No.
Okay.
Sit to your question, please.
Does he play?
At this rate,
in-
the way you guys are going slow, it's just 3 players. I'm not doing 5, just 3.
Wait. Does he play in the Spanish league?
No.
Is he a starter for his team?
Yeah. There's one question you
Okay.
guys should ask, but you haven't asked. But I'm not going to give you any clues.
Wait.
Sicho, the delay.
Wait. Has he played in the World Cup before?
Yes.
Man, he's not from Europe. No, he's not from Africa. He's not from.
He's not
South
from Africa.
America.
He's not from South America.
South America.
Is he from-
He's from Europe. He's from Europe.
Top 5 league. Midfielder.
Is he from Europe?
Yes.
He's from Europe.
Okay.
Has his country ever won the World Cup?
Yes. 9 more questions.
John, if
Plays
I
in
ask
England?
if-
No.
No, he said no. Well, is he still
He's
an
never
active
played in
footballer?
England. He's never
Is
played
he-
in England.
Is he still an active footballer?
Kylian Mbappe.
This is a question I was waiting
Oh,
for.
midfielder.
No, he's not an active player. He's retired.
He's retired.
Uh-oh.
But every other answer I've given you still stands.
He's retired. Bastian Schweinsteiger.
No. He's never played in the Premier League. Schweinsteiger played in the Premier League. Remember, he played for Manchester United.
That is Zinedine Zidane.
No.
You said the player has never played in the Premiership.
No, he's never.
Played in the Spanish La Liga.
No.
Okay. Midfield.
Wait, the Italian Serie A?
Yes.
Retired.
Just 5 more questions. So ask your questions well now. If not, game over for the 2 of you.
Pello. Adrian Pello.
Hello, Andrea Pello. Andrea Pello.
Go. Vale. Vamos.
Andrea Pello. Andrea Pello.
Vamos, hostia.
Andrea Pello.
Vamos.
2 more.
Vamos. Midfielder. Let's go. Zicho, you dey fear me. You dey fear me. See Bono face.
Come on.
See Bono face. What? That come out for me. You don't know me, eh? What? Come on.
Hey, Jonah, you gotta give
Next player.
You gotta give me.
Next player.
You gotta give me
Next
credit,
player,
man.
guys.
My questions also brought 4.
I beg.
Next
You
player.
ask
He's
your
the
question.
best
I dey ask my question.
That's correct. Now, guys, let's not waste any time.
Let's
Next
go.
player. Second player.
Retired
Jonah, I'll start
or
with you this
active?
Okay.
Jonah, go.
Is he from Africa? I love that. I love that question.
No, he's not.
Okay.
Retired or
Wait.
active?
He's retired. Actually, he's still playing.
Played with his national team?
Yes.
Okay. Played with his national team, not from Africa.
Has he played in the
Still
World Cup?
playing.
Has he played in the World Cup? Yes. Yes, he has.
From Europe?
No, he's not from Europe.
Okay, so no African.
What position does he play? What position does he play?
That's not a yes or no question, please.
You see, you should be disqualified by now.
Is he?
That's twice. That's twice now.
Is he?
Sure.
Is he a striker?
He is. I would say he's a forward.
He's a forward, a wide forward.
Okay. Is he from South America then?
Yes.
Okay. Forward. Played in the World Cup.
14 more questions. You've asked 6 so far.
Did you ask if he played in England?
I don't
No,
think
no.
like that, no.
Did he
No,
play in
that's
England?
No. He was courted, but he never played in England.
Played in the La Liga?
Did he play in La Liga?
Yes.
No.
He did not. Okay.
Then he played in Serie A, right? Did he
Very
play in
courted
Serie A?
all over the world, but he never played. He didn't play in the Serie A as well.
Wait,
Is he a starter for his team?
What do you mean is he a starter for his team? As in his current club team?
Current club that he's playing for? Yeah, right now.
No.
Okay. Sicho, ask now. Ask now. Easy.
I'm
Delay,
not asking.
delay.
Wait,
Yes,
wait.
because I just asked the
Wait.
question. Your turn.
Has he? Okay, I asked if he played. Has his country won the World Cup before?
Yes. $11 more questions, please.
And did they play
the way-
in the? Did they play in that World Cup they won?
Did he play in a World Cup they won? That's an interesting question. 1 second.
Look, the player you're looking for is a very old player, and his country hasn't won the World Cup recently. Because that would
He
have
said
been
he's
so
still
fresh on his
playing
mind.
though. He said he's still playing.
He's still playing.
He's still playing.
Yeah.
He was scouted across around the world, but he didn't
No,
play
he
in
wasn't.
Premier
He wasn't
League.
part of the World Cup team.
He wasn't part of the World Cup team.
No,
Okay. Sijo,
he
your
wasn't
turn.
part of the World Cup team. And I told you he's not African. Of course, I mean no African team has won a World Cup. But I said, did I mention the region he's from? The continent he's
No,
from?
no.
Okay.
Is he from South America?
Come again?
Is he from South America?
Yes, he's from South America. A wide
Wait.
forward.
Wait.
Plays is South
Wait,
American.
Neymar Jr.
No. He wasn't part of his World Cup winning team. But
Yeah,
he's won the
Neymar
World
wasn't.
Cup. I mean, his country has won the World Cup. He never played in the Premier League. He never played.
Okay, is he from South America?
Yeah, he's some. I think
said
Sichu
yes.
asked me that question. I already answered.
Oh,
he's from
Sicho
South
did. Okay.
I asked,
Whose turn is it to ask a question now?
Jonas there.
It's my turn.
Okay, Jonah, let's go.
It's my turn. Is he in his early 30s or late 30s?
Well, that's
He's
not.
in
That
his
is
late
not.
30s.
Oh, that is not a yes or no answer.
Yeah.
Is he 35?
Is he 35? No,
Okay.
but he's more than 35. Maybe I can
Alright.
give you that.
Yeah.
Did he captain his country?
Did he captain his country? No.
Did he play in Brazil?
Yes. Yes, he played in Brazil.
Is he from Brazil?
Yes. 7 more questions. So Brazilian wide forward, never played in the Premier League, never played in the Spanish La Liga, never won the World Cup, but Brazil has won the World Cup.
Wait, but he played in Italy, yes?
No.
Where is he playing now? Oh,
That is not yes or no.
that's
That's
not
not
a
yes
yes
or no.
Yeah.
The question about Italy, whether he played in Italy, no, he didn't play in Italy.
Playing in the Brazilian league now?
Yes.
Did he play in Europe at all?
Yes. 4 more questions. Be careful the questions you ask now.
Hulk.
Hawk is correct.
Sicho, I told you, don't compete with me. I told you, bro. Come on, man.
Hawk is correct.
I told you, bro. Don't
correct.
compete with me,
No.
bro.
Keeping aside
I told you.
No, this is fatality.
Like, who thinks about Hulk in 2025? That's
Because,
the case, bro.
because he didn't play in England. He didn't play in Italy. Come on, now.
Okay. Last one, guys. Last one.
Bro, last one saying you see best of 3. My 22.
Actually, best of 3. Yeah. So that's
My 22. Yeah. Now, okay, be a bonus mark for Sicho. Bonus.
So Sicho and I, we clap for Jonathan for winning today's round. I mean, he sweat Sicho. Sicho was nowhere to be found. Sicho was.
That is because Jonathan already has experience on this game from last week. So
What do you mean? That was the first time I played, and I lost.
This is my first time. This is my first time, and I've lost.
But this game doesn't need experience anyway.
Exactly, bro. If you know,
Jonathan knows the ins and outs of the game. Yeah,
what do you mean?
Anyway, that will be the end of FC Pitchside Podcast. Thank you very much for joining us, and of course making this a show. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, you know what to do. Rate us very highly there, and of course do follow us. It's always really, really entertaining here on this show, and of course very informative. I hope you did enjoy yourself. If you are watching on YouTube, then please subscribe, like the video, and also leave a comment. Also, we would like for you to leave comments. Just let us know if you have any questions for the panel or anything you want them to answer. I'm going to be asking the questions to them, and then you'll be getting your answers, and hopefully they give you exactly what you want. But of course, you can leave us feedback and everything on all the platforms. We would love to read them. Thank you very much. It's been another episode. Same time next week, we'll bring you another one. Until then, hopefully, if you are supporting any of the teams in the UEFA finals, the 2 finals are waiting us. Hopefully your team wins. For those who never won this season, for those who are going trophyless this season, those who couldn't even make the Champions League this season, or the Europa League this season, or the Conference League this season, they know themselves. All I can say is that our thoughts are with you. We'll see you sometime later.
FC Pitchside Podcast, part of the Footy Center lineup and powered by Ultra Press Media Company.